As stand-up paddleboarding increases in popularity, we're starting to see the expansion of the sport into different niche and specialist areas. So downwinding looks at not just using groundswell or surf to be able to get rides, but the prevailing wind conditions, chop and the coastal environment to get longer bumps and longer rides as you traverse your way along the coast. Today we're going to have a look at how you can get out downwinding safely. With sup surfing paving the way for most of the UK's sup growth, the evolution to downwinding was not far to follow. This part of the sport is often overlooked as it takes place out of sight, offshore, in what many consider to be a treacherous environment. It can be one of the most exhilarating ways to sup, and done correctly, is as safe as any other avenue of the sport. Downwind paddling is where you try to surf, swell and bumps over a long distance. It takes time to master, but once you start to find the rhythm, paddling hard for a few strokes, gliding, searching for your next bump, and then gliding again, you'll never want to stop. We're going to start by looking at board, paddle and leash to get us out and downwinding. So in terms of board, the longer the board, the easier it's going to be to catch bumps and get longer rides. However, we need a board that we already feel stable and secure on. So if you can't paddle it on flat water, it's not going to work when you're trying to catch your first bumps or first lumps on the coast. Boards over 12 foot are going to be easiest to catch swell on, and most people normally go for a board around 14 foot or even 14 foot plus. Some specialist downwind boards are over 17 foot. We might even see some with rudders, so you can paddle offset against any crosswind or wind that's not coming straight from behind. Race boards and downwind boards tend to be thicker. So we're still looking at a paddle that's probably above your head height to give you the best chance of getting the paddle deep enough, but also being able to move up and down the board quickly to get yourself onto bumps. The leash, as with everything in stand-up paddleboarding, is our most important piece of safety gear. It needs to be thick enough and strong enough that even in the windiest and roughest conditions, if you come off the board and the board gets pulled away from you, it's going to stand up to the test of the job. Just as important as the board, the paddle and the leash is the extra gear I'm going to take to keep me safe on the water. So here I've got a VHF and an aqua pack that I can keep strapped to me. It's when you lose your board that you may need to use it. It's a really good bit of kit. So my other communication or tracking device is this, and this is a personal locator beacon. I can open this up and I can pull the pin on this, and that will send out an emergency locator beacon that I can be tracked on by the Coast Guard so they can come and find where I am. So another bit of kit I'd take is some sort of high-vis top, just to make me more obvious on the water, whether that needs to be an emergency situation or actually just to keep me safer while I'm traversing across a bay. The last bit of kit I've got here is I've got a gas inflatable personal flotation device, or gas inflatable PFD. Now I may well need to use that if at any point I get separated from my board, my leash snaps, or if I need some extra buoyancy and I need help.
We realised we hadn't tested the PFD before, so it's a great opportunity to jump in and pull the cord. The device design is nice and simple, and getting the jacket out was no problem at all. Like all of these things, it's well worth reading up on how they work and how to use them before getting on the water. After recovering from the self-rescue, I met up with Harvey, who's a local paddler. We talk about his experiences, tips, and best practices when going downwinding.
So what do you really enjoy about downwinding?
Oh, it's just the freedom being out there. You can be a mile out to sea, planing on your board. It's just human power that's got you there. There's no sail, there's no engine, there's no sounds, except it's just you, nature, your board and the elements. It's a fantastic experience, and it's one of the most challenging types of paddling you can do.
What was your first downwind experience like?
Downwinding, I took too small a board, a 10.6, and I did a trip from sort of where we are now, about 5k, and it was a long slog, and I only got about 2 glides, but those 2 glides just had me fully hooked.
Okay, so from that 10.6, what do you use now for downwinding?
I use a 14 foot.
Have you gone like fairly wide? Have you gone a little bit narrower?
Mine's quite narrow, I think it's 24.5. The benefit of that is it goes faster, but the flip side is you do fall off more. So I'd certainly say at the beginning to just take a board that you're really comfortable with.
In terms of paddle length, what have you gone for?
I've got a slightly longer paddle that I'm very comfortable with a relatively small blade. because you tend to want to be able to change your cadence and paddle short, sharp, fast strokes, and then some longer, deeper strokes. And I like also to be able to use a longer paddle to brace when you're going downwind and you've caught your bumps and you're on the runners and linking them up. The last thing again you want to be doing is falling in, so it's really good to be able to use a longer paddle to brace, reach out, and also you can get a really good reach when you're going really fast. It's quite hard to, you've got to get forward on the board, and I find a longer paddle helps me for that.
So again, this smaller blade helps the cadence up, but that longer paddle helps make up for a bit of the board narrowness, I suppose, in terms of stability.
Yeah, and the board height as well. It's quite a high board, so yeah, a longer paddle.
You still get the depth and you're kind of good to go. And leash-wise, a bit of debate over coil versus straight. What do you go for?
I use a coil to keep it out the water, but the most important thing is have a leash. It's absolutely essential. It's probably the most important bit of safety kit you can take out.
And forecast-wise, what sort of forecast can it get you excited to go downwinding?
Strong winds, really. Anything above a force 5. You can go in stronger winds, but then the real problems are board management more than anything else, getting in and out the water. But you can start from force 4, maybe even a force 3. Like anything that's got some bumps in the sea. We did one the other night, and it wasn't particularly windy, but the sea was choppy, and we could catch some bumps, and that was great fun and great practice.
So we can start the force 3, but as you get more experience, the kind of windier the better, really.
The windier and the wavier the better.
Fantastic. Cool. So we've got the kind of board, paddle, leash sorted. We've got a load of safety gear, but I'm guessing there's a fair bit of planning that goes into it. You've got preset trips, or what do you have to look at before you get out on the water?
Well, planning is absolutely essential. I have a series of set trips, but each one's been planned, and you always need to look at the forecast and think about the variables, because really when you're downwinding you can only paddle about 20 degrees either side of the wind. So you've got to look at what you're going to do if the wind changes direction and causes you a problem.
Is anyone you would kind of get in contact with to let them know you're out there?
Have a contact on shore that knows where we're going, when we're going, time that we're going to be back, and then also always phone the Coast Guard and let them know our plans. They're always very receptive to that.
And do you let them know when you come back in as well?
Yeah, definitely. Really important to phone them when you come back in, otherwise you're going to have a problem.
I'm guessing the more you've done it, the better you become at the planning and the letting people know, and I suppose it's that experience that keeps you safe out there, really. Definitely
the experience and the planning, but you mustn't be complacent. Even if you're doing the same trip in similar conditions, just make sure you do the basics right to make sure you don't have anything go wrong, but planning is critical. So, guess what we're going to do is going to give the Coast Guard a call, tell them our plan, and then get out on the water. Let's go downwinding.
Even though it wasn't the windiest, we still had fun catching a few bumps. The conditions we had today would be a perfect introduction to downwinding. Cross shore, force 3 to 4, and some small waves to get the board going on. Hopefully this video has given you a few takeaways for your next time on the water.